Welcome back. Welcome back. Birds of a feather. This is your girl, AJ, the Suburban Princess. Wake up, wake up. Did you hear that bell? School is in session, and the Philadelphia Eagles are starting a clinic. And guess who failed the first test? The Dallas Cowboys. Oh, goodness gracious, wasn't that the best game? This was the perfect way to walk into a home stretch that's coming up for the Philadelphia Eagles. And not necessarily a stretch, but they're going to be back home again facing Chicago Bears and Mitchell Trubisky and whoever else is on the team, because I don't really know who's on Bears and I don't really care. But the point is, did anyone really see this team being this good this season? This season, I swear, ever since Carson Wentz stepped his foot on Philadelphia soil, he has blessed the whole organization. Even if he didn't seem like he was going to go anywhere last year in his rookie season, I pretty much saw flashes of genius from throw one in the Cleveland Browns game. This is our quarterback. Carson Wentz is our quarterback. And man, is he starting a ripple wave effect with all the team members. And he's causing a lot of, giving new life to every single player on the team. Now, mind you, Howie Roseman did get this whole thing started this year. In the postseason, he worked his ass off to get some veterans like Alshon and Torrey Smith. And even when Darren Sproles, our class act veteran, who's been on IR the rest of the season, I do believe he'll be back to retire as an Eagle. I don't see them letting go of Darren Sproles right away. I do feel like he'll be our sure thing to back up in case there's any major injuries next season. But my goodness, the thought of how they beat Dallas. They came back in the second half after a very, very slow start. And yes, it was a little nerve-wracking and honestly very boring. But it was good to know that there was still a whole nother half to go, because you knew something was about to pop off. You were just waiting for it, whether it be the pick that McLeod got, or the pick that Malcolm Jenkins got in the end zone. There was three picks. Dak threw the ball over three times. And one time he actually had the nerve to complain about his helmet getting grabbed, but it was like barely a grab. So, at this point, I just think it was good to see the Cowboys literally shell shocked. But could you blame them at that point? After a while, I don't think anybody thought the Eagles would walk in there and have a fair fight. I think they honestly were waiting for the Eagles to get tired or something. But I'm sorry, every time they showed the defense standing and waiting for the next play, they did not look winded. Dallas just became more uninterested as the game went on. And I think by the fourth quarter, forget it. Once Ajayi had that 71-yarder run that he almost made a touchdown if he hadn't got caught, and then there were just some plays like the kind of lateral play, or I don't know what they call it, like a sneak play, but to Selleck that he almost got to the end zone. So there were a couple plays in there. My boy Zach Ertz wasn't really a factor this time around, although he did do a very cool leap in the middle of the game. But I don't really think him and Carson were on the same page. And I'm sure that's because of the rust of being off. And I'm sure that's because, Zach was injured for a brief time. He's had an outstanding year regardless. I don't care whatever he does the rest of the year. He's had one of the best years of his professional career. And for once, everyone can stop saying, wait until Zach Ertz, because he's here. But let's just hope that whatever was wrong with his hammy doesn't flare up again, and that he can resume his status as one of the best tight ends this season. Jason Witten on the Dallas Cowboys talk about classic veteran tight ends, who he is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer, Jason Witten, so respect there. But he wasn't even a factor on his team. I don't even know half of the guys that were on the O-line, because most of the major people were injured or out. Dallas really wasn't a factor, but you were waiting for that momentum swing to come back, because you wanted that feel of a true Cowboys game where it's neck and neck and it's a blowout and all this stuff. And honestly, I didn't see a blowout. I saw it to be at least, a 3-pointer, if not 10-point game max. But to see a score of 37-9, are you kidding me? Now, mind you, back in the day when Donovan McNabb was on the team, and they would blow them out like 44 points to 6 and all this, like just ridiculous numbers. And, the one night where Michael Vick caught fire on Monday Night Football in Washington, the first year of Chip Kelly, and they put up 50 something points up there that night. So you just never know when iron is going to strike. When lightning is going to strike. And when it does, boy, does it run through the city. It's almost like this blast of energy, like everyone's been electrocuted, and no one feels like they're coming back down again. And it's a good feeling. It's kind of a cautious feeling. I mean, I know now at this point, even the national pundits are talking Super Bowl with this team, but I go back to the Carson that has been introduced to us since last season. A very calm, a very stoic, a very mindful, a very proud, a very spiritual, religious dude who at the same time puts that into his practice of being a good quarterback. And I feel like if he's getting good now and it's only his second year, can you imagine him 5 years into this business? I really do see him as one of those guys that, okay, I'll admit it, he is a little Favre-like. I mean, he just has that focus. And Favre was loved because of his focus, not just because, he did this many thousand yards or whatever. I mean, Carson did his own stats. I'm not a stat person, so I'm not going to ever look up, how many total yards, because I could care less. The point was he played like he wanted to bring that team out of the doldrums that they were going through in the first quarter. I honestly, in the first half, I really do think that Carson was just probably too amped. And he was kind of not on the same page with a lot of the players. I think the defense was setting it up very nicely for the offense, but they just weren't gelling. But, there were little flashes of brilliance with Lane Johnson doing his job on the O-line. We just couldn't get anything in sync with the wide receivers. And Aguilar went back to a couple drops, but some of them I think were kind of suspect. And the one play that he brilliantly outran the other player, but his knee was down before he get to the end zone. It was really good transition on his part from ruining a good series. But, for once the refs weren't a factor in a game like this. You figured they were probably going to find ways to stall the game, but the refs weren't even a factor, which is always good to see, because for once you like to see calls that are normally probably ticky-tack not being called. I don't think they even really started calling penalties until the second half, really. And a couple were on Dallas and one or two was on the Eagles. But honestly, I think everybody just wanted to see how this was going to shape up. And the fourth quarter, like I truly believe every game, it matters the most, is really what it came down to. If there's one thing that all these Philly teams got to learn to do is play a complete game. Coming off of a bye, as long as you're not looking like you're sleepwalking through the whole game, and they learned how to regroup, which the one thing I do love about this Carson Wentz too is that him and the coaching staff both all know, we can't stay in this hole. We have to get out now. So I do believe that they have a very, very, very good slot of making the second round of the playoffs. I'm scared to say the SB phrase because I just feel like, it's whatever. I mean, there's the Saints kind of nipping at our heels in the NFC. The Vikings could be a threat. Pittsburgh is killing it over there. Patriots obviously always do somehow. So if it was a Pennsylvania SB, that's all I'm going to say. It would be fun to see two Pennsylvania teams battling it out. But it's also kind of exciting to see the other teams that are slowly starting to make a comeback. So you just never know who's going to be in the NFC Conference Championship, which is really going to be exciting this year because hopefully, and I'm going to just put it out there, I think the Eagles will get home field advantage. I think for once in my life, I will actually work a postseason this year, and I will actually get to see how it pans out. Now, the Seahawks, even though people keep saying, they're not a threat, I just don't trust them as far as, looking better than what they look like right now somehow. I mean, just like any other team, you have to next man up. So any of the injured players like Richard Sherman, the quarterback who was just injured 2 weeks ago, anybody could step up. So, I don't ever believe every other person saying, they're weak, they're winding down, because Dallas had every opportunity to probably come back if they wanted. But I truly do believe that Dak was exposed without Ezekiel. And I think if Ezekiel had not put up such a fight so long and during the season, he probably would have been there playing, and it probably would have been an even better battle. And I think the Eagles probably would have even rebounded faster, maybe within the same first half had Zeke been there, because the defense probably would have shut him down. So it's still not a win without Zeke, but it's a win for the team in general because they did not quit when their backs were against the wall. And that to me is the makings of a great team. So again, I will not say the two words, but it's a possibility. Anything can happen. I'm still a lover of saying by that December 31st Cowboys game, where hopefully both sides will probably be resting all their star players. It won't be a game that no one even cares to watch. Everybody will just watch it because it's on TV, but they'll be looking forward to counting down the ball to a new year. And yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting into the season, the regular season, and hopefully another couple weeks to play around in January, and that'd be great. Anything's possible with my birds. And if there were the one thing I love about this new young blood and this new energy, I think it's contagious. And I think that even if we lose a few names next season due to free agency and all this stuff, because there's a lot of people up for renegotiating, so be it. But if the general core of the playbook and the trust that is obviously growing between Carson and the coaching staff, it shouldn't matter who's here to fill whose shoes. It really shouldn't matter. There should still be that staunch, we have to win, we have to finish out, we have to be on top at all times. So now that winning mentality is back, 9-1, they're not done. So I'm going to keep this short and brief just because I know that there's a game this Sunday, and with the holiday and everything, I'm sure everybody's got things to do, things to buy, things to make. Me, myself, I was going to buy pumpkin bread, but I was going to make some pumpkin bread myself. But then I thought, you know what? I'm tired. I'm doing this last minute at midnight and I need to go to bed so I can go to work early, get out early, and get my massage on. But thank you for listening. Any of those who listen to my podcast, shout me out at ajradiocaller@aol.com. Girly Virgo 78 is my Twitter. And Elena Janine is on my YouTube channel, and that is where you'll find more of these episodes of Birds of a Feather if you'd like to listen. Thanks for tuning in. I'm looking forward to another Birds Week versus the Chicago Bears. And I don't know, Mitch Trubisky is starting to come into his own. They may not be threatening or nipping at anybody else in their conference, but it might still be a very entertaining home game to come back to. So until then, my fellow Bird Gang, Bird Gang for life. EAGLES, Eagles.